Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Hello, good evening. It's the beginning of another week. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Anusabata Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, Defense Minister Dr. Edward Amaneboama demands accountability for ammunition transferred from the Ghana Armed Forces to the national security. We dig deeper into this issue and assess its security implications. The Deputy Defense Minister is our guest tonight. Stay with us. Also, over 75% of small-scale miners risk losing their licenses by August 4 if they fail to regularize them. Now, following an audit that uncovered widespread irregularities, we've got details for you. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. We also gauge the expectations of key sectoral stakeholders ahead of the 2025 mid-year budget review set to be presented Thursday, July 24. We focus on the financial sector and also the education sector. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Well, let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Government is demanding answers from the National Security Secretariat on the whereabouts of high military-grade ammunitions released to the outfit last year. The Defense Minister says the development has sparked fears of the possibility of the ammunitions getting into the hands of criminals.
We have kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions since not been accounted for.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has threatened to revoke the licenses of 962 small-scale miners if identified irregularities are not resolved within 2 weeks. This follows a report from a ministerial committee tasked to review small-scale mining licenses across the country. Out of 1,278 licenses reviewed, 962 were found to have multiple irregularities, while 316 had no issues. License holders with concerns are expected to resolve them within 2 weeks or face revocation. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has expressed disappointment over what it says is a lack of tangible action in the fight against illegal mining, Galamsey, since President Mahama assumed office. UTAG in the statement noted that expectations for a firm clampdown on Galamsey have not yet materialized, expressing deep concern that environmental destruction continues at an alarming rate. The association wants President Mahama to honor the anti-Galamsey promise he made ahead of the 2024 general elections.
We are a stakeholder who really appreciate how the law is structured, and we are in a process. And so we think at this stage, the dialoguing and engaging the general public is key. And we will move to the next step by engaging again the presidency and the minister. And subsequent to that, we are hoping that we shouldn't really get to any level that we will be pushed to take any industrial action line. But we are just hoping that government will heed to our call.
The Ministry of Labour, Employment and Jobs is taking another step towards addressing youth unemployment by signing a memorandum of understanding with some German companies. This new partnership with the German companies aims to equip young Ghanaians with the skills needed to thrive in both local and international job markets. Sector Minister of Labour, Jobs and Employment, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, expressed deep confidence this will reduce unemployment rate among the youth in the country.
The robust career guidance systems to steer our youth towards promising construction careers. The establishment of Ghanaian German apprenticeship that provides hands-on industrial relevant training. And the third one, a steadfast commitment to industry-led vocational training that ensures our curriculum meets actual market demands.
The Zwarungu Senior High School in the Bolgatanga East District of the Upper East Region has been closed down following violent clashes between rival student groups on Sunday, July 20. The Upper East Regional Minister and Chairman of the Regional Security Council, Donatus Akamgri Atanga, ordered the immediate closure of the school to prevent a deterioration of the situation. The violent clash, reportedly sparked by the alleged theft of a mobile phone, escalated into a large-scale brawl that resulted in significant destruction of school property, including the burning of some school structures. As Ghana continues to demonstrate signs of economic recovery, experts and stakeholders are urging the government to solidify these gains by strategically investing in and supporting the real sectors of the economy. The call emphasizes a need for a cautious yet determined approach to ensure that current positive trends translate into sustained long-term economic development.
Take a look at the government's own announcement of the 24-hour economy. We expect that government will be pumping some resources, its own commitment into that area. Areas like the other infrastructure issues, roads across the country, government, I expect to put some resources to be able to take advantage of the gains we've made to do some spending.
It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Talk about 3 News. We're streaming right now on YouTube, on 3 News YouTube page. That's 3 News. So you go to YouTube and you type 3 News. We're streaming there as well. And we're live on 3FM 92.7. This is Ghana Tonight. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil, Kum Tum Tum Preko. Coming up next, where are the ammunition transferred from the Ghana Armed Forces to national security? That's the question that the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Omaneboama, is demanding answers to. Tonight, I want to get a bit more detail beyond what he said at that press conference earlier today. And so stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. It's a serious security concern. And the government is demanding answers from the previous NPP administration on the whereabouts of high military grade ammunitions released from the Ghana Armed Forces to national security last year. Now, the defense minister says the development has sparked fears of the possibility of the ammunitions getting into the hands of criminals. Now, he took his turn at the accountability series earlier today at the Jubilee House, and journalists asked questions. In fact, our Presidential Affairs correspondent, Komla Kluche, asked a specific question about the updates of this missing or unaccounted for ammunition, and this is what the minister, Dr. Edward Omaneboama, had to say to that question that Komla Kluche asked earlier today. Take a look.
We have kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions which have since not been accounted for.
You recall, that's Dr. Edward Omaneboma there, is the Minister in charge of Defense. Now, you recall the President himself, that's the President John Dramani Mahama, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, pointed out this particular matter not too long ago, and this is it. He indicated that it is particularly true given the troubling proliferation of military-grade weapons. This was sometime in February, the 27th of February, during the State of the Nation address. So this matter we are talking about today came to the notice of this administration sometime in February, that the military-grade weapons that fell into unauthorized hands under the previous administration, and that these weapons pose a significant threat to our national security and constitutional democracy, endangering the safety of all Ghanaians and potentially exacerbating the existing conflicts such as chieftaincy disputes and many others. Now think about it. Even though the defense minister did not give detail of the kind of military-grade weapon, that's the ammunitions, I beg your pardon, that we're dealing with, there is some pointer that raises a matter of concern as well. So we're asking questions as to exactly what the previous administration specifically did with this ammunitions that we understand, according to the defense minister, cannot be accounted for or have gone missing. Well, this is a former deputy defense minister, immediate past deputy defense minister of this country, Kofi Amankwa Menu. He spoke on Accra-based Joy FM, and this is what he said. He said, it will not be too difficult knowing where a gun or ammunition went, who took what it was used for. And he finds it a bit absurd that this current defense minister, Dr. Edward Omaneboma, will run to the public with some of these issues, because he was expecting that, in his view, these matters bordering on national security, the minister shouldn't talk about it. But if you've realized this, government accountability shares, that platform was for the minister to account to the people, and taking into consideration the fact that the president had already mentioned it, and then my colleague Komakruche asked this question about an update of what has become of this missing ammunition. But this former deputy defense minister says that, look, these matters, it's not too difficult for the Minister of Defense to find answers to, and that he will find it difficult if the minister will not get answers that he needs as to where the ammunition is as we speak, and that he is the minister. When the records are there, who will tamper with it? And remember, this ammunition, according to Dr. Omaneboma, was transferred from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security last year. So it stands to reason that it was during this month's tenure as Deputy Defense Minister that that particular transfer was done. But he says that, look, it's not a big deal. If you want answers, Dr. Omaneboma, you're going to get it. But thankfully, we have the Deputy Defense Minister, NS Broja Jemfi, joining us on Zoom right now. So, Broja Jemfi, good evening. Thank you, really, for staying to talk to us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, this is the response of your predecessor, indicating that this matter that you're raising and putting into the public, it's not really a big deal. That if you find these questions begging, you're going to get answers because you are the minister. And when the records are there, who is going to tamper with it? So really, it's not much of a big issue. So why are you making it a big deal?
Well, thank you, my brother. Let me first put the issue into its proper perspective. The Minister for Defense was today at Government Accountability Series, where he was supposed to project the situation as he met as the minister and what has happened so far in the last 7 months. So that is the exercise that the minister was at the presidency to do today. Now, he mentioned that some irregular transfer of ammunitions running into thousands were taken from the Ghana Armed Forces to national security last year. And these ammunitions
cannot be accounted for. This is what the minister said. Now, what does it mean? The Ghana Armed Forces have protocols and procedures when they have to transfer any asset belonging to the Ghana Armed Forces to any agency or any place for whatever purpose that it is meant for. Now, these procedures and protocols were not followed in this particular instance when the thousands of ammunitions were transferred to the national security outfit. And we began to the purpose, because if you check, you would notice that this transfer occurred very close to the elections. And so we needed to know why and the motive. Now, we are unable to get concrete answers from the national security as to where these ammunitions actually were taken to. And so, as the minister reported, we have left it at the level of the national security to dig further and give us some information about it. Note that these ammunitions are assets belonging to the Ghana Armed Forces. And so the minister is obliged to report to the people of Ghana exactly what we met and what we have done so far. Now, Alfred, after giving you this background, would you say that this putting out this information was unnecessary?
I see. Well, I think the verdict is out there for the people who are watching us right now, but it's instructive that, Mr. President, you make the point that the transfer of these thousands of military-grade ammunition from the Ghana Armed Forces to the national security was done close to December 7, you're saying a few days or weeks to the December 7 elections last year. Now, has there been a specific detail as to exactly why this transfer was done? What was it meant for? And for what purpose exactly was this transfer done, taking into consideration the timing that you talk about, that was close to the elections last year?
That is what we are chasing now. Because before any asset, be it ammunition, be it tactical vehicles, any asset belonging to the Ghana Armed Forces, even moves to an operational area, there are protocols, there will be records. But in this particular case, the movement or the transfer occurred without any documentation backing it. If there were any documentation, then it would have been an after process, which is to try to justify the transfer. But that is just one side of the story. The other side of the story is when these ammunitions were received at the National Security Secretariat, where and what were they used for? This has not been accounted for. And so that is the information the minister put out. He did not mention anybody's name. He did not accuse any past government official. And so I'm very surprised that my very good brother, Honorable Amankwa Menu, has jumped to this to defend it. Is it not a fact that the transfer occurred? That's a fact. Was it regular? Did it follow protocols? It did not. Can we account for these ammunitions currently? As far as we are concerned, And as I do this interview with you this evening.
I see. But then again, yes, you did not mention any former government official's name, but he is only coming in and he's been asked questions because he is a former deputy defense minister. The portfolio that you occupy now and that ministry having jurisdiction over this kind of transfer, he obviously has to be asked questions. But then again, even if you didn't mention any former government official's name in all of this, someone has to answer for this, is it not? Because you're saying it did not follow protocol, it is irregular, it is unusual. Somebody must be giving some answers to the questions as to why it was moved, where they are now, and why it was moved during that period. You say close to election day, December 7th. We need answers, don't we?
Saying that I'm unable to speak to timelines, but what I can assure you and the watching public is that the national security is dealing with it. And from our part, we are also putting in place measures to ensure that such an irregularity does not repeat within the Ghana Armed Forces or any agency under the ministry. These are ammunitions belonging to the Ghana Armed Forces.
And stay with me a bit, and let me bring in Richard Commodore. He's a security analyst as well. Mr. Commodore, thank you so much for joining us on this, because this is a matter that started unfolding earlier within the day when my colleague Komla Kloche asked question of the updates on this situation, and we got this update from the minister. Now you're hearing a bit more detail from the deputy minister right now that this is an irregular movement. It didn't follow protocol. There's no documentation on this movement of the thousands of military-grade ammunition from the armed forces to the national security, and they cannot be traced. And obviously, we don't have answers right now. How does all of this strike you?
I was a bit surprised that for 7 months, we are unable to find disappearing ammunitions and armored or guns, and for that matter. I seriously believe that my brother Chaskipo, the director BNI or director general NIB, and his men have the capacity to investigate this matter and find out where the ammunitions are. And I'm saying that I cannot contradict the minister, but I will suggestively recommend that the BNI should be the leading agency in investigating the disappearing of ammunitions in the quantities we are talking about. But Alfred is a basic knowledge. What was the nature of the security operations at the National Security Secretariat? Do they have a battalion? Do they have ground troopers? Why would they need such ammunitions? In the military or within the security intelligence environment, we pride ourselves in dealing with command and control and standardizations. I seriously believe that at any point in time, whatever has been moved and whatever has been received within the chain of activity, somebody is responsible for, and somebody will have to be held accountable. And I believe that the BNI has the capacity. I know there's a change over at the National Security Secretariat, and Osman Razak, the security coordinator, and many of the directors, they have their new people, but they were the receiving agency. And even though they are tasked to investigate, I seriously believe that the BNI has the capacity and they are well positioned to investigate this matter, particularly for posterity. And they may keep the documents and provide the answers to government so that government can take a decision on this matter.
In what form should the investigations take? Because as we're speaking now, the president spoke about it in February. We're getting this update from the minister now. In what form should the investigation take?
If this matter has not landed on the decks of my brother Chaskipo, the director BNI, I will suggestively recommend the minister informs him and his unit, the BNI, as quickly as possible. And it wouldn't take them so long to be able to crack the whip and open it up and unravel what actually happened and the actual details. For us as investigators, it's a simple matter. We will go for the chain of activities, and we will look out for the standard procedures, where there are vulnerabilities and where there are breaches, and what created the lapses. If it is true, the numbers we are talking about, which I will not be surprised it is true, then it means that somebody might have kept these ammunition. Some could link to the black market, or some may be linking to galamseyers, or they might be hiding in the bunkers of some people. And the state must be interested in this matter. We cannot afford to close our eyes and sleep at a time when the Small Arms Commission is trying so hard to deal with excessive nature of guns and gun violence in this country. So we need to deal with it. And it's a basic something the investigators at the BNI can quickly get it done, and the minister or the attorney general will have the results. I can seriously attest to the fact that the BNI has the capacity in dealing with such things.
But also taking into consideration the fact that, I mean, we can understand why the deputy minister cannot give so much detail, beyond what the minister has said. He obviously needs some clearance to do that. But then again, take a look at this, that you know how the security architecture works in this country. I mean, an officer should have authorized the movement, is it not? I mean, if we are talking about thousands of military-grade ammunition, that has to go through a certain procedure or a protocol. Now, Ernest Broja Jemfi, the Deputy Defense Minister, is saying this movement did not go through that protocol. It is irregular. It is unusual. Under what circumstance can that happen?
Definitely. You know, the military is a government agency, and politicians influence some of these things. Before the elections, I am very active within the security intelligence environment in this country, particularly within the Greater Accra region. The 2024 elections, we did a lot of background checks, and we babysit a lot of locations within the country, particularly within Greater Accra. Alfred, if you've been to the field that you have been, many of the things that are coming out are not surprising to some of us at all. Because during elections or days leading to elections, you will hear some of these things being done, movement of arms and movement of ammunition and many of these things. And sometimes I feel the people we led into offices, particularly those in military uniforms, they do themselves a little bit of disservice. I'm looking forward to a day where politicians will give an instruction, and professionals as they are, they will lay down their tools and walk away. And that will become part of the lessons for the junior ranks to learn. But ask yourself, even if it is one ammunition that is moved from the military barracks into National Security Secretariat, what is the nature for security operations at the Secretariat that warrant a movement of ammunition or armory in the first place? Who are those responsible for these operations? And what is the intended purposes? You are likely to have politicians fueling in. And that is why this evening you were introduced with politicians writing and Jemfi coming to counteract what the MPP guy said. Because he has everything to do with politics. Only God knows what we're sitting on and what have become of this country. I think that some of the decisions we take for ourselves as Black people and as people who want our democracy to triumph, sometimes we let ourselves down and it doesn't sound properly at all. No matter what it takes, let the BNI investigate, let people be held accountable where the breaches came from and where the vulnerabilities came from. That is the only way you can allay the fears of Ghanaians, considering the fact that a lot of our people are becoming victims of gun violence in this country.
And maybe finally, before I let you go on this one, and he talks about, and Broja Jemfi talks about the timing of this. If you heard him, he indicated that this movement or this transfer of these thousands of ammunition was done close to election day, December 7 last year. I mean, based on the information that they've gathered so far. I mean, does that give you any pointers whatsoever in looking at the bigger picture and the larger scheme of this transfer that he says did not follow protocol?
Definitely, yes. If you have been on the ground and you have put your ears on the ground, you might have heard some of these things. And some people have seen certain movement of vehicles and they have accused people publicly. What we do in this country is that once elections are over, all those accusations go to sleep and nobody follows it up. So when things such as this comes out, the probability and the possibility of it being true, if you don't investigate it, you might water it down. But it is worrying and it is very abhorrent that this is the decisions we took for ourselves as people in uniform who are expected to swear an oath and to uphold the national item and loyalty to the state. I am always of the view that National Security Secretariat operations would need to be streamlined, and they would need to be under the strict command of the National Security Coordinator, so that such issues such as this, accountability becomes very simple, and people can give an account of what they have done and the decisions they've taken. We are not getting it right, and it might blow up in our face in the near future. That's my fear.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, as always, with your thoughts and expert analysis. Richard Kumado is a security analyst, and then also Deputy Defense Minister Ernest Bojaj MP also joined us earlier to give us just a bit more detail beyond what the minister put out earlier today on this matter of the movement of the ammunitions from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Secretariat. We understand they have been charged to investigate and trace exactly how this unusual, unauthorized movement was done. This is one we'll keep an eye on here on Ghana Tonight. And let's cross over to Parliament right now, because Parliament sitting just ended today, not too long ago. And my colleague and our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Christian Yale, is connecting with me right now from Parliament. Christian, how's the day been? What has been happening since Parliament began sitting this morning?
Yes, Alfred. So the House adjourned just some few minutes ago. We had to stay back to be able to bring you this live update on what things, how things transpired earlier. But as it were, the Ghana Medical Trust Fund Bill 2025 was presented the first time and was referred to the Committee on Health to consider it and report back to the House for consideration. Later in the day, that was done. However, the issue was with the absence of the signature of the committee chairperson on the report, because per the signature we've cited, it was the Adentan MP Abu Ramadan whose signature was on it, which is a concern that the minority side raised, that per the standing orders, especially when you look at Standing Order 2152, that provision makes it very clear that it is either the chairman of the committee or the clerk to the committee who is to sign that report. But eventually, after the heated exchanges, the House adopted the report. It was read a second time. MPs took turns to debate it, but the minority side held the view that this fund is basically going to duplicate the National Health Insurance Fund, because when you look at it critically, per the provisions of this fund, which is the Ghana Medical Trust Fund Bill, the fund is going to derive about 20% of its revenue from the NHIF. So the minority has held the view that this is not necessary, or it is going to be redundant, and even in essence, they are of the view that it shouldn't have been even considered under a certificate of urgency, as the government side, which is the majority, is making it to seem. So those were the concerns. But then you had the communications, or the Minister for Government Communications, Phyllis Kwachiofosu, making the case that there are lots of people who continue to lose their lives on a daily basis from non-communicable diseases, especially those that are not catered for under the National Health Insurance Scheme. And so there is that need. There is no time to waste at all in considering this bill. Yeah, Alfred.
And this Ghana Medical Trust Fund Bill captioned the Mahama Cares program, as we've seen it, obviously was expected to generate some debate and conversation on the floor of Parliament. There was a matter having to do with numbers on the floor of Parliament, and both the majority and the minority side as well, and as to whether they formed the quorum to be able to do this. So how were all these matters resolved eventually? Chris?
Exactly. It did not end there. It just seems like we've had a very long day in considering this bill, because just when they were done after the second reading and the consideration and the debate thereof, the First Deputy Minority Whip, Habibi Idris, MP for Tolon, raised a concern about quorum. He was of the view that the House lacked enough numbers to adopt the report, after which there will be the third reading and then the consideration of each of the clauses contained in the report. This raised a little debate, and the majority leader, Mahama Yariga, intervened and was of the view that, yes, when you look at Article 104 of the Constitution, it makes it very clear. And so they, as the majority or the government side, wouldn't want to set any bad precedent. So he is of the view, or he agreed to a large extent, that if there is that need to adjourn or to defer the question to adopt the report and further continue to make the consideration the next day, which is tomorrow, he is okay by that. There were little exchanges following those with the minority leader even daring the majority leader to, in a sense, if he can, suspend the sitting and even summon all his MPs to come to the chamber to consider the bill. But eventually the second deputy speaker, who presided over proceedings today, ruled and deferred the question to adopt it to tomorrow, and so it is expected that will be done when they have enough numbers for quorum, and then after that the consideration would follow suit.
Some great detail there, Christian. Appreciate you for this, and as always, we do appreciate the good work that you do from Parliament. And Christian Yale connecting with us live from Parliament, and as he indicated, the sittings today ended not too long ago. Tomorrow he is going to be there for us. Our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Christian Yale, there. So live here on Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, on 3 News on YouTube. Coming up next, we're gauging the expectation of key sector stakeholders ahead of the 2025 media budget review, set to be presented on Thursday, July 24. That's the conversation that we're getting into right now here on Ghana Tonight, and then a number of persons who have also been talking about this and then also sharing their views and their opinions, comments ahead of the media budget review presentation is one that we will be hearing from. That is the defense, that's the education, and then also the financial sector expectations ahead of the media budget review presentation on Thursday. Now, let's start off from the education sector. And one major stakeholder is the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. They have been talking about matters relating to their conditions of service and then also capitation grant and others. Musa Tanko, Thomas Musa Tanko is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Do appreciate your time. If you could readjust the sitting for me. And yeah, this is better. Thank you. Mr. Tanko, appreciate you for joining us. First off, I want to find out from you, from the Ghana National Association of Teachers perspective, which largely represents the concerns on the education sector. What are your expectations ahead of the media budget review presentation by Dr. Kasiela Tofosing on Thursday?
Yes, thank you very much. I think that if you look at the indicators carefully, we have been able, or the government has done well. And the key thing is that we are in the middle of the year. And so what we've been able to start, or what the government has started, we should be able to consolidate the issues such as the exchange rate, and also giving the current price of the prices of goods and services, among other related matters. We should be able to maintain them and also improve upon them, inflation inclusive. And I think when we go on that particular tangent, at the end of the day, we'll be able to consolidate all the gains that have been made. Additionally, we are now heading towards the end of the second half. All the things that must be taken on board must be done. So, for example, the kind of negotiations must be done. And if you look at the road networks around the country now, they are not in the best of shapes at all. And I believe that we need to take concrete steps to get all of them done. In fact, all the outlet routes we have in Accra now, they are so bad. From Accra to Nsawam, it's not good at all. Accra, Winneba, it's the same thing. And all the other routes. I believe that's something we need to do something about it so that we can have, good outlet and now put our city, that means the Greater Accra, actually in shape. Regarding the issues of labor, there are things that have been negotiated on. And also, this is the time that government should take it upon itself to factor in all those things. And I believe that will be fine, taking into consideration also our debt servicing and all those things. We need to take all those things into consideration as we move on into the second half. We should also remember the national security matters. We cannot easily forget. One of them is the issues of unemployment. We need to work towards it. The issue of galamsey, which is actually destroying our water bodies. Something must be done immediately. I think that for the first half of the year, all that we have been done, what more that we have been able to do, it seems like the results is not that coming clear regarding the fight against galamsey. And so the government should reconsider the request, and that's a popular request that we need to go for a state of emergency to get it done. Look, I drive throughout the country almost every month, and our water bodies are really in bad shape. If nothing is done, how can we be talking about that? We want to talk about the big push. We want to be talking about the 24-hour economy without potable water. It's not possible. Water should be the lifeline of the 24-hour economy. If there is no water, you cannot have 24-hour economy. And so the call for a state of emergency, I believe that we have gotten to a state where we need to have a second look at it and declare the state of emergency where we have those challenges, and then take it up from there. And I believe that by so doing, we'll be fine. But so far, I'll say that the government has done well in managing the economy. That's what I need to put it on record.
I see. And I appreciate this comprehensive detail of your expectations, Thomas Musa Tanko. Then let me bring in Joe Jackson, this is financial analyst. Mr. Jackson, looking at how the financial sector has evolved, at least right from January till now, we've seen some movement in there with the news of government mulling the idea of recapitalizing the National Investment Bank and the Agricultural Development Bank. Some 1.4 billion cedis has been mentioned in there as well. But I want us to take a look at the NIB because something very interesting, Mr. Jackson, has been reported today. And I want to find out your thoughts on this because if you go on the website of the National Investment Bank, they, on that site, say that by end of 2018, the bank's financials showed distressing signs, saddled with over 2.4 billion cedis in non-performing loans, pushing it into a position of financial strain that threatened the very existence of the bank. Today, Mr. Jackson, we're learning that the NIB half-year profit before tax between January and June 2025, for the first time in a very long while, they've posted half-year profit before tax of 74.3 million Ghana cedis. And that's not all. In fact, if you compare that same period last year, they posted a loss of 44.7 million. So you see that just within a year period, we're seeing this shift and a flip from a loss-making bank. Now, we understand this half-year profit before tax of 74.3 million is what the bank has posted. And from where you sit, how does this strike you, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, first of all, it strikes me that this is an institution which seems to be moving in the right direction. And that even before the recapitalization has been fully announced, they are making efforts to claw back some of the losses. And remember that some of the losses they had made in the past were deep. And that this is only a drop in the ocean compared to some of the losses that they've accumulated over the years. If this gets validated by the performance in the second half of the year, then we'll have cause to believe that one, management is doing the right thing. Two, management is not engaged in any corrupt practices. But best of all, that a Ghanaian institution is getting the right sort of management. So we're just hoping that by the end of the year, this result that have been announced for the first half will be replicated or even improved in the second half. So we're all very hopeful.
But it's instructive to note that this is the first time since 2016 that the bank, the NIB, has actually published its financial statement. That's instructive, is it not?
Yes. It is instructive of how difficult things have been, or some will even say how bad things have been. But, you know, in a lot of ways, there's a new wind blowing. There's a new wind blowing through the financial sector. There's a new wind blowing, and those who catch this new wind, those who catch this new regime and what it means will yield good results. And for all of us in the financial sector, this should give us hope. Remember also that the drop in T-bill rates and the drop in all the other rates have been positive and beneficial for the financial sector. So this has been good. So we're pleased that NIB, one of the leading banks that's supposed to lead our effort in the industrial sector, is performing again. We're pleased that the first half-year results are looking so very positive. We're praying that it will be replicated in the second half and that things will be on the upward trend.
And talking about that particular expectation, that ties into the very final one from you. What are the expectations that the financial sector, that you are a major player in, has ahead of the media budget review presentation by the finance minister, the specific policies to sustain the gains that we've been talking about now?
Okay, now, first of all, remember, it is a mid-year review. It is not a new budget that is going to be read. What we are, first of all, expecting is that, one, the good things that are being done will be continued. What are the good things? The commitment to fiscal responsibility, that commitment to reduce expenditure that has been fantastic over the last few months will be continued. Indeed, when you think about it, one of the country's biggest single costs was the cost of financing our domestic, servicing our domestic debt, which was mainly coming through T-bills. And by dropping that cost from in excess of 30% per annum to less than 15% per annum, a lot of what has happened is that cost is now smaller. That cost is less of a drag on our budget. That's one of the good things that have been done. A commitment to look at our reserves and improve the reserves and keep the CD's value balance between the needs of importers and exporters at the rate at which it is now. It's also another good thing that has, in a lot of ways, helped reduce inflation. These things must be continued. That's what we are hoping for, that we will see a renewed commitment to those things that have brought us a positive outlook at this moment. We also seek to see that those big risks will be looked at. The first risk is the risk of the energy sector debt, for which, of course, the levy came into play. But we also want to see completion of the negotiation, commitment to negotiate with the IPPs and others so that power would be kept running over this period. We don't need doom so. That's very important. The other one that we are all watching out for is we want to hear the plans for paying the arrears owed contractors and various suppliers to the government. Those arrears are huge. 64 billion and counting. Here's the risk. If that money is paid outright, it will be a huge inflation risk and could reverse some of the gains we've made where inflation and the currency value is concerned. We are asking that, some of us are asking that in paying their arrears, they be paid in, for example, long-term bonds, so that the reflation risk be mitigated. Could that payment be made transparent so that it doesn't depend on whether you are of this political persuasion or that political persuasion, but it will be made clear, and some of the payment, even though we'll get cash, some of the payment will be in long-term bonds,
right,
to mitigate the inflation risk. Indeed, some of us are even asking, could we get some sort of haircut? So that 64 billion come down.
Right.
Because that's one of the big risks we face in reversing some of the gains we've had.
We've seen now. Ms. Jackson, appreciate you. This is a rather debatable position to take, but then again, as I indicated, we're just warming up into Thursday, so this is a matter we'll get into a bit more extensively in the coming days. Thank you. Joe Jackson is a financial analyst. Thomas Musa Tanko is General Secretary of the Ghana Association of Teachers, NAT. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News, leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. Now, we're getting information that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, that's Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, has threatened to revoke the licenses of 962 small-scale miners if identified irregularities are not resolved within 2 weeks. We're going to put that on the screen right now before we go. Now, this follows a report from a ministerial committee tasked to review small-scale mining licenses across the country. I'm going to show you the numbers in terms of the findings of the committee that we're talking about. First off, 1,278 licenses have been reviewed so far and 316 cleared from what we got from our sources within this committee, and 962 of them have been flagged of irregularities, and so far these affected small-scale miners who own these 962 mining licenses have been notified and given 2 weeks to regularize their licenses, or else the minister says that he is going to take the decision to revoke the licenses of these 962 mining licenses that have been identified to have had some irregularities associated with it. So this is one that we'll keep an eye on as well while we continue to stay the steam on the fight against illegal mining. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfred. Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.